3, 2, 1. Okay, we're back, people. We finally made it. This is the first time we've ever had to delay the start of a recording due to a poop. It's just what it is. But fortunately, the NBA as well, they're late in starting too. Mavs and Suns are just firing up underway. Maybe we're later than I thought. Are we recording at the right time, people? This is typically NBA late night, usually. A Western Conference, but, West Coast matchup. I guess, in Dallas. Playing in Dallas is why they're able to pull this off. But still, typically, with the Western Conference teams, we're used to watching them snuggled up in bed. But tonight, we will be watching them live here on the channel with you guys. Subscribe if you haven't. Thank you guys for jumping in as well. And for staying tuned to all the lives that we've been doing. I know things are all over the place right now. The Spotify's behind because of some IT issues. We'll get that up to date as soon as possible. But we'll still be on all the platforms, Instagram, TikTok, all the podcast platforms out there if you guys want to stay locked in. And there's a ton of great streams as well, too, the past streams that we've done that are all on the channel if you guys have missed them. And because of the poop, we were missing out on the rest of the NBA action. So let's get caught up on that as well. I know the Pacers and the Hornets are locked into a battle. I wish we could just trade the blackout teams for a different team. We would. I mean, the NBA, the problem is there's so many stacked teams. And I guess not stacked, but so many interesting teams with storylines. Are we streaming clean, people? Pause. Is this a clean stream tonight? We'll see what happens. I don't know if we're got some crazy buffering going on, but we'll power through and we'll see how it goes. But the Pacers, obviously because of the offense, Halliburton, they're just going to be in a ton of fun matchups. This year, though, maybe it's more Siakam, not Halliburton, in this game to start as well. Siakam with 15 of the 35 points to start for the Pacers. There's 7.5 minutes left in the second quarter. Siakam 6 for 8 from the field, 3 for 4 from the three-point line. Let's see what LaMelo's doing. He's matching him with points. He's got 10 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists as well. Not quite matching him with the efficiency. 4 for 12 from the field, 2 for 7 from the three-point line. Brandon Miller tonight, 3 for 5. We might just have to do it, people. Luka lays it in. The Mavs tied up. It's 8-8. This is going to be a shootout. Both of these teams playing pretty well. Mavs 5-3. Suns at 7-1. KD balling out. And he did this as well last year. I mean, he had a great season before he went down. But he was an incredible first half of the season guy. The efficiency as well, too, from him last year was insane. Okay, we've got a lot of things to look up, people. We will get into that Pacers-Hornets game in just a second, right after we look up what Durant's numbers. Was he 50-40-90 last year? Was he 50-50-80? There were crazy shooting splits, not just for him, but just in general. Yeah, last season he was 52-41-85. This year he's 55-42-81. More free throw attempts, though. A little bit, about a half attempt more a game. Unfortunately, he's just not converting that half attempt. Must be hitting the rim. But in KD fashion as well, too, the 423-point percentage, but 55% from the field. The game continues to be tied at 11-11, but let's get into this. Let's see if we can hack into this game. Pacers, Hornets. We could put the Pistons in a blackout for sure. As much as we love Cade, the Thompson twins were really buying stock in them. But tonight, I mean, the Hawks, Shea, like we said, it's fun stories. Not really a close game. The Pelicans are getting worked by the Magic right now. Should I have been looking at the Pelicans box score while I was on the toilet? Probably. Should have seen what Zion was up to. If he's in tonight. Yeah, no Zion. Is Zion out for an extended period? Chat, did we miss the exact details of the Zion injury? I think we did. But we could put the Pelicans sneaky in a blackout. You never want to put Zion off the TVs. He's always got to be one of the people that you make a preference for. But the consistency and just the rest of the team is fun too. Herb Jones, like we're saying, there's not going to be guys on these teams that we're not going to not enjoy seeing. Did that grammatically all make sense? Did we get enough knots in there? But Brandon Miller is in an interesting spot right now as well too, and that entire draft class just in general. Because I mean, and again, Wemby, it's just probably the frustrations of what we expected versus the start of the season. Is it us backpedaling for saying that the Spurs were gonna? What did we say? Wemby MVP? I don't remember how dramatic we got, but I mean, he hasn't just stormed out in front of all these other rookies as in all the other young talent in the league. But from this draft class, it's not like he's an unattainable guy to be the best player in the class next to where we thought prospect-wise that's what it was really looking like. But they were playing the Blazers the other night. Obviously, Wemby versus Scoot. Top two, number 1 versus number 3 pick from this class. And Scoot, we're not going to give up on him. But, oh, man, just looking at the advanced stats here, too. Just right away next to some of these other guys. But, again, Wemby, the shooting thing has just not been good this year. I can't even believe he's 31%, honestly, looking at it. I can't believe he's over 30%. Felt like he was under that pause last night. But if Miller can do an efficiency thing and just really crush that role as like the complimentary guy playing off the ball. Now, he's going to have to take minutes from Grant Williams, unfortunately. But especially with LaMelo shooting the way that he is this year. Well, what is he, 4 for 12 right now? I guess with him shooting it a lot. But with him playing well this year, having that good guard next to him to kind of set him up is, I think, the ideal role in what we envision Brandon Miller in. And again, the other year 2 guys, there hasn't been so far a dramatic year 2 leap guy. And I know the thing is with Wemby, again, the defense is still there, where that alone is still probably the best trait from the draft class. And, we said that going into the draft where it was like, okay, where can this go wrong? And there's obviously an injury factor part of it, but just from the talent standpoint, if the offensive game never gets to where we thought, he's still going to be probably the best defensive player in this class, probably best defensive player in the league-ish, in that contending categories. So that alone is probably worth drafting. And he's still, and if the offensive game never develops, it's not going to be like the offensive game is non-existent. It just would be, the idea would be you get him at number 1 and he's the transcendent guy who can be the best offensive player. I mean, people were saying he's going to be the best offensive player and best defensive player in the league next year. I mean, we're in year 2. And they were saying about that in year 3 for him. So, I mean, we're 90 games away from him being the best player in the league. To some of the pre-draft scouts, if we're remembering what the analysis is. But the value over replacement player compared to him and some of the other guys in the draft class is still pretty dramatically high. And still in all, box score plus minus, some of the basic box stats. I guess the Leonard Miller minutes have been pretty impressive from this class. But outside of that, he's still the lead guy in the mix. He's just not. It's not even, again, that he's not ascending to the generational talent, but if you're a guy like Brandon Miller, a guy like Amen Thompson as well, too, both the Thompson twins, I think there's a real attainable, and I guess it's more the teams that drafted those going, oh, yeah, we might have really have gotten a win with getting one of those guys in the mix. And the feds are on to us. Usually we try to get into these blackout games into the 4th quarter, but maybe we'll just have to hope that one ends up staying close. Doncic and Irvin and Booker and Durant, the duos right now going toe-to-toe. Shooting well. Kyrie at the free throw line. Phoenix, I guess you couldn't, well, not really starting to pull away. It's only 15-12, but with it being tied there, it's going to be one of those games where the margin being so slim is going to be just a couple of shots is going to be too much to try to get. Probably not with the bench that the Phoenix Suns have. But, they still got some young players. And I still think that if you look back and go, okay, obviously, are they paying a little too much for the top guys? Testing 1, 2. Did we touch? Okay, are we back in? Pause. Test. But when they, the payroll is probably a little too top heavy, obviously. But with that being said, and I don't know, it feels just the unnecessary tax of having Durant and Booker. Obviously, he's not, but having a third star around to keep them happy, keep them knowing that you're trying to get guys contending, whatever. Obviously, he's going to have to play a lot better to live up to that paycheck. But considering the top heaviness, considering just the, oh, never mind. Considering the top heaviness of the team's payroll, they've done a good job of the moves of the veteran players, the drafting of the young guys. I think with the positions that they've been in, they've always gotten the best guys available to them. And I know we always say teams can do well with what they have, but if you go, again, for free agency, it's like the minimum contract guys last year. I think Eric Gordon was a guy that we all said was going to be one of the better minimum contract guys and thought would be a much more valuable piece to that team than we thought. And maybe that's schematic. They do have a coaching change this year as well as bringing in some other, roster additions. Tyus Jones on the court right now is definitely a big part of that. Nurkic taking a 3, way off. That's not going to be his last 3 in the game. I think Coach Bud is part of the revolution, and you can have guys on your team where it's like, I guess we have to do the 3-point shooting thing with Nurkic. Like, we have no other choice. Nurkic is our 5, and if we're going to spread the floor and if we're going to play 5 out, like, Nurkic is just going to have to start taking shots. But, the form is there to some degree. I feel like all these guys now, they can just go in. Well, not all of them. There's a couple guys we know that are in the gym and not working on the shot. But the guys that are in the gym working, like these big men that can just go in over a summer or two and hammer out a jump shot, it is pretty impressive. I always hear Russillo talk about how guys it's not that you can't pick up basketball later in life, but like, are you going to be a really good shooter if you pick up basketball? If you start playing basketball in like your 30s and 40s, or even, late 20s, if we're talking the athletic, development, hand-eye, all that different stuff. But I guess, I don't know, would the science tell us that actually after you're fully matured, would the development increase faster then? But I mean, we all assume it's better to start younger. But if you're picking up basketball later, like, is shooting going to be a thing that really, really struggles? Because that's a thing you need to just develop over time. And that's, the shooting really is too, but it is a thing where it's as much hours spent as it is, getting a good form and getting good at it, because every guy has kind of their own thing going on with their form. And some guys have, some things that you might even be like, is shot like bad? But, they're able to work it out. Like Lonzo, and I mean, there is points to where you go, okay, obviously that hitch is bad. Like, Lonzo got to a point where it's like he needs to do something about it. But the shot is still, Lonzo Ball still has his form. Most players in the league have a unique form. So it is just as much about logging the minutes as anything else. But watching, and I guess the centers, a professional basketball player adding an element to their game is different than a guy picking up a whole new habit and a whole new athletic trait. But watching a center go in and just be able to just add a jump shot, like Brook Lopez being able to add a jump shot in his career, makes me think that you can just, if you're actually out in the park getting up enough shots, you can actually do it. That is the part that goes underrated, is, again, how much time is actually spent. Because even if you're like, I'm really going to commit to this, I'm going to go out twice a week, which, I mean, for a working person in today's economy, for a working person to go out, a couple of times a week, and then assuming that, if we're assuming like the athletic thing, I guess it doesn't start with the gym for everybody though, because you got, again, runners and everybody plays with their sports. But if you're going to try to go to the gym and then play basketball twice a week and then work and do all this stuff. I mean, you can definitely make time for it unless it's the winter months and then, you lose the outdoor courts. There becomes an economy factor to it as well. But, assuming you can get outdoors, get enough shots in, you can go out twice a week for an hour. Like, that's not, 2 hours a week is not that much compared to guys going out, 4 hours a day to train. Some guys that are maniacs that may do like a 3-hour training session, then a break and the rest of their day, and then come back at night and do another 3-hour training session. And now, I mean, we can't even, these numbers are too, the math is too high for us to calculate, but now you're putting in 50 plus hours a week, plus 50 some weeks a year. And I get, you're not training year round, you're in season, but you're still taking shots in season. Still getting the reps up. So I think if you do, for anybody, if you log enough time and you get enough reps, I guess, quality reps, whatever, but you get what we're saying. If you get out there and you put in the work, like, you can definitely become a really, really good shooter in pickup basketball terms in the park. We're talking with the boys here. Obviously, you're not going to start throwing yourself out there in a G League tryout, picking it up at 32, but going out to your local Y, being able to hang, being able to be a dude. You could pick up basketball in your 30s and be a dude before you're 40, for sure. Easily. You could honestly do it in a summer. And I know, being in the Midwest, just the scale of the city, the scale of the amount of people committed, the amount of hoopers in the city is going to be lower compared to just, bigger cities. But the college town element nearby, I feel like that raises the hooper per capita, at least in the area. So it is a competitive area. I don't feel like I've lost touch with the amount of pickup basketball people that are out there, but it's not that hard to be good at pickup. Like, you only need 10 guys, but still, to find like 10 guys that are actually all what we would, for pickup basketball terms, be like really good is, not necessarily the easiest thing. And we're not talking about a rec league or maybe like even like going out to like maybe a night, some kind of like pickup, like if a gym is like some open court type of night. I'm just thinking more like a random going into the rec center or going out to the park where there's runs. Finding 10 guys at a park is, especially in the Midwest, almost impossible. But once you start working into the recs, it's definitely there. The Pelicans trying to work their way back against the Magic with no Paolo as well, too. We'll be saying that for a while. The injury, the devastating injury that the Magic might actually be able to work through. And yeah, the Suns, Mavs still within 1 point. So when the Suns did surge ahead when they were up by 4 there. That was, 4 times the amount of the lead that we've seen at any point. But all that being said, there's been no player that's gotten into the gym, into the rec center. No player, no year 2 player that really seems to be taking that big. Like Trayce Jackson-Davis, the Warriors are definitely better this year, but I don't know if it's, and no disrespect to Trayce Jackson-Davis, he's playing well, but it's not because of, it's just they've done a lot of other really good things. We're saying, I guess he's not the only element to that. He's there's a lot of other things that the Warriors did and brought in. Buddy Hield, but Hawkes as well too. Podziemski, it's sitting there for Podziemski. I guess it's been Anthony Black, but again, he hasn't jumped from in the way that we're thinking like a year 1 to year 2, where we're thinking that guy leaps up into a real conversation standpoint. Like Anthony Black is obviously now, what was he, 6th pick in the draft. So it's like, okay, the skills that he's showcasing, he's back in here talking about, top 10 player from the class for sure, one of the most talented guys, and just in general, a role guy that you'd want to build a team around. But is he kind of getting caught back up to where he was as a rookie? But I do think his rookie season was pretty on par with what we were going to expect, because the jump shot really wasn't there, and he was, all these guys are younger guys too now, especially with I feel like it's not even the reclassifying, but I don't know. Is there a birthdays thing going on right now where it just seems like everybody enters and I guess, the NBA is different than the NFL, but still, like Scoot going in, was he like 17 when he got drafted? It just seems crazy. But now it's like Anthony Black is in the conversation as a dude, and we want him to be, what's the next level up from a dude? A guy? I feel like we should flip it around. Like, Anthony Black is a guy, and we want Anthony Black to be a dude. Like, we all knew Wemby was a dude at the end of last year. Like, Wemby took down Jokic last year. Should we look up that box score from the end of last season? And I bet in that game against Jokic, he was like 2 for 3 for 3. And he was playing well, so it's like you get a couple of heat check threes as well. Speaking of which, shout out to Greg Popovich. Hope he's doing well. He's been away from the sidelines with an unrelated, I guess, or with a undisclosed health issue. At least the Spurs organization has not disclosed that information, and personally, I'm not going to look into it. If it gets released, they will release it, but hopefully Pop is doing well. It doesn't seem, I guess they've been keeping it under wraps, but 4 games in, would there be a message? But at the end of last year, and Mitch Johnson as well, too, is the interim. I've had a lot of Mitch Johnson stock, and I think, if anything, this is not good for the Spurs because it's going to expose him in that head coaching role, and teams might see him running the sidelines there and kind of like that. Oh, no, Wemby was jacking up. Yeah, we should have known going into the end of last season. He was putting up 3-pointers. He was 5 for 12 in that game, so he's 40%, but 12 3-pointers. Did he get hot in the fourth quarter and get some threes? I'm just trying to remember this as optimistically as possible. But 34 points, I mean, it was a great performance. I'm remembering it optimistically because it was optimistic, but from the shooting standpoint, Jokic 1 for 4 in the fourth quarter, 2 points. Wemby, no fourth quarter threes. 1 for 5 himself, though. It was Mamushvili and Trey Jones taking over in the fourth quarter. Oh, yeah, Devontae Graham as well, too, with 8 points. I remember that. He hit a couple of big shots. And a couple of big plays that ended up stealing that game as well. A big defensive play from Wemby at the end of the game. But, yeah, down the stretch here, he missed a couple of games with injuries. And then let's get a good stretch of games here, see what he did for the 3-point. I mean, he's taken at least 8 or 9 a game here down the stretch. And going his last like 11 or 12 games, he has 4 games with 10 or more threes. And then 1 with 9, 6, 5, 4, 2, one of a couple inactives. So he was getting the jump shots up early and often in the games down the stretch last year. We should have been nervous instead of hopeful. Wemby's just going to turn into another splash. Wemby's Jordan Poole. What is happening? Do we need to get a couple of baddies courtside? Is there just like a smidge, just a whiff? I don't even want to say it. Because last week I said that I was already starting to put Paolo versus Wemby stuff out there. But is there just a whiff of, rich kid, spoiled kid type in NBA terms? We're not talking, obviously in real life, but in the NBA terms, is there like a little rich kid vibe from Wemby? Just kind of, because I mean, is this in the Spurs game plan for him to take this many threes? Because it can't be. So if it's not in the game plan, is Wemby just going off script and just kind of doing his own thing? Or is the game plan to let Wemby kind of wheel and deal? And, we let him do that to kind of start, I feel like, the season last year. And then there was some more plays and stuff. Like, Devontae Graham in the end of last year. I get, a lot of the guys were hurt. What a lineup, Wemby. That's why we were hopeful, because Wemby was hanging with Jokic, and it was, maybe we should have been more worried about the Nuggets than anything. It was Mamashvili, Devontae Graham, and a couple of other guys. But still, you're like, is Wemby Moses Malone already? Like, give him 4 plumbers, and he's just going to take down the MVP of the league and not even necessarily shoot the ball that well? But he's just kind of doing whatever he wants. Is he acting a little bit like Christian Bale from Shaft? He just thinks he can get away with anything on the court. He thinks he can take whatever shot he wants. I don't want to call it disgusting, but we're reformed sports people. We're not going to get vicious about the Wemby not shooting around the rim, but I'm just saying, dude, you're like 7'5". I feel like it would be a good shot to take. Would be one that might be close around the rim. And I'm no expert, but I feel like it's a shot that you might be able to get to quite a bit. Especially, again, last time we measured, I believe the number was around 7'5". On the low scale, too. Is that European metric system? I think he's pushing 8 feet tall at the combine, but let's not forget Kevin Durant and his hot start to the season and his hot start tonight. Let's see what he's doing tonight. Let's get a stat check here on this game. And that's right, we also had Wemby's got me sidetracked from Bucks Knicks. That was in action. The Bucks now, the worst record in the league. I guess they're 2-6. Let's see if that's changed. Is there a 1-win team that we're not thinking about? Or maybe is there a 2-5 and their win percentage is worse? But last time we looked, they were the worst team in the league. Okay, so yeah, right now at 2-6, they would be the 4th worst team in the league. The Jazz are 1-7, and the Sixers are also 1-6, and they have no Maxey for a while. He's injured, so I guess they can only have one star at a time. Embiid suspended. Paul George just gets back. Maxey goes out. But on Tankathon, it says, and sometimes you just need a refresher on all this stuff, and let's see if we can get some more details on this. But Philly's pick is top 6 protected? Is Philly going to tank the year? Philly's top 6 protected pick would go to OKC. Of course it would, because every pick in the league goes to OKC. Does the league have to just step in and be like, OKC, you got to give some of these back? Like, is this the first time? Like, what were those companies that, Josh Okogie with the big dunk. But what were those companies back in the day that like had to get broken up because they were so big? The government had to step in and be like, okay, this has actually got to be 2 companies now. It was like one of the networks, one of the BCs, NBC, CBS, ABC, one of them got split up because they were too big, too much on the airwaves. And I guess maybe the executives were just bored, and that was back before there was 3 channels. There was only 2. They split one of them up, and they became 3. And nobody talks about That's how you know how bad public television was that nobody says we had 4 channels back then, the 3 big ones in public television. They just go, no, yeah, we had 3 channels. Nobody was watching that, but Phoenix is actually starting to pull away, up by 12 here, finishing the first quarter on a run. Once they subbed in Mason Plumlee, which we may joke about, but again, if Nurkic is just going to be jacking up threes, like I get, maybe Coach Bud isn't as committed as we thought because, Mason Plumlee, I feel like doesn't take as many threes as he would if he was on like a Missoula-led team or another one of these all-in 3-point coaches, though Bud does love the pace and space. We know that. Not that that's what we're saying, but I think he also can coach to a player's strengths and weaknesses. Maybe he doesn't want Plumlee out there jacking up 3-pointers. The Plumlees are the one set of brothers that just haven't succumbed to the 3-point revolution. They're standing strong. You'd want to call them the Bosas of the NBA, but I don't know who that's disrespectful to, because make no mistake, the Plumlees have not won a Defensive Player of the Year. But, well, I guess I don't know what we want to assume about Mason Plumlee's personal life either. I feel like Mason Plumlee could go either way. Judging by the popular vote, I feel like we know which way Mason Plumlee went. Did anybody in the locker what was Wednesday like when Mason Plumlee showed up? Did Mason Plumlee have to have a Kamala Harris sticker on his just on his backpack for the last couple of months? Just not bring it up, but just to not get the side eye on Wednesday. Though, I feel like Bosa's probably chilling on Wednesday. Though, do the Niners have practice on Wednesday? I feel like with the veterans they might just give the guys off day after the election. Can Fred Warner and Nick Bosa be seen in the same room? I guess, they're all good guys. But Philly with the top 6 protected pick, and then Milwaukee's pick, unprotected, just flat out going to New Orleans. If it's protected 5 through 30. Protected 5 through 30. Otherwise, so their pick is gone either way. So it is protected a couple of ways. But okay, we might have to pull up a different site here. I don't know if it's worth figuring out, but I feel like we need to get to the bottom of this. Their pick is top 4 protected for the Brooklyn Nets, but then protected for the rest of the first round for the Pelicans. I didn't even know a team could do that. They could just have a 3-way with their first round pick. Just trade it to a couple of different teams, but their first round pick is gone either way. New Orleans right now. And I guess if it was top 4 protected to the Nets, then why doesn't have it? Then Tankathon, why isn't Tankathon show it going to the Nets? I think Tankathon is being a little bit confusing right now. So let's just assume that Milwaukee's pick is going to New Orleans this year. New Orleans might have 2 top 10 picks. Their own might be top 10. It's number 7 right now. But that Milwaukee pick, holy cow, that's a good pick. That is a good pick. And the Clippers pick to the Thunder, I know everybody was making a big deal about that at the beginning of the year because, make no mistake, again, the Thunder just having all these picks, it's like another big... If they just get another one of these guys, it's just going to be undeniable because, we love... Again, are we live, people? We're talking out loud. Sometimes you get into the deep, dark secrets of the Rem and Sam pod. We all love Jalen Williams, but again, with your duo guys, you do like them to have a whiff of, can they take over and be the best player on a court at a given time? And I think Jalen Williams can definitely do that in the regular season. In the regular season, for sure, he can do that. But, in a playoff game, is he more just kind of a sidekicky type of guy? Again, I don't necessarily believe that. It's just something that could be a possibility. And, I guess it could be a possibility. We could go down the roster and say, potentially all these guys maybe could choke in a big moment. But, if there could add another, if we're just talking about the team actually being the team that we think it is now, where we look at it and go, oh man, look how stacked, because it is stacked. But if we're just again, the 3 young guys that they have, any of these guys you could start a franchise around. This is insane. How do they have all this young talent? If the Clippers were terrible this year and they got to draft Cooper Flagg or Ace Bailey because of the Clipper pick. Even Cooper Flagg next to Chet, I don't know if that would be too much, but Ace Bailey on this team. Now that might get a little weird with him and Williams. But I don't know. You could play. That's still a lot of length out there. Shea, Jalen Williams, Ace Bailey, Chet, Hartenstein. That's a pretty. I mean, it's a pretty good five. And I think, again, just getting in another. I guess just getting a guy in any talent, any extra talent, is going to be beneficial for OKC. But is Philly going to be the more likely reason that OKC ends up at the top of the draft and not the Clippers? But I guess because Philly's going to make a push at some point, maybe, unless they're already just thinking, ooh, this is not good. Do we just start pulling the plug now? But assuming they do make a push, I guess they're probably going to get out of the lottery. Yeah? Because you still assume some of these teams, Utah, Toronto, Chicago, Washington, Portland, Detroit, even, yeah, we'll say San Antonio. We're not. We'll have to live. Sometimes you have to think, what would we say if we were not biased and not San Antonio fans? And we would put San Antonio in that group. But, at some point, those teams are going to get separate. Those teams are going to get left behind by the rest of the league at some point. I guess, there's going to be a team that emerges out of that group. We like Chicago's been a feisty team this year. If Detroit continues to take a step up with the young talent, maybe one of these Eastern Conference teams is able to step up. But especially these teams in the West, like New Orleans as well, too, could be at risk for getting left behind a little bit. So you would assume Philly gets up there, but if OKC has two shots potentially to get a top level pick with the Clippers and the Sixers, because I guess you would potentially jump up into the top 4 with the lottery, but we cannot let the Clippers have any more ping pong balls. It just can't be allowed. But Milwaukee, I wish Milwaukee had their pick, because Milwaukee getting Cooper Flag, it would be like, Giannis, just pump the brakes a little bit. Like, let's not think about leaving Milwaukee yet. If again, in this hypothetical universe, if Milwaukee has their first round pick, it's like, do we just keep taking? We're 2-6 already. Dame, keep shooting, buddy. It's working. It's going great. Giannis can continue to, be the MVP-ish guy and first team All-NBA, put up the numbers, have the impact. And people are like, it's not enough. This team sucks, which it does. But then we just end up in the lottery and get Cooper Flag? I mean, Giannis and Cooper Flag? That's the thing about Flag, is he's anywhere he's going to go, he might potentially have a sidekick to play with. Pause. Right now, Utah, again, not the sexiest team. Cooper Flag in Utah is just too funny. I can't believe that. Good on Danny Ainge. Like, from a talent standpoint, who knows? Do we take Flag over Wemby? It's going to be Paolo, Flag, and Wemby. Jeez. I was going to say we can't have nice things, but Wemby is still... we're this early in. We're not going to be the spoiled rich kid being like, why is our generational talent not being generational? But you know what we're saying. He's still not shooting the ball well. But even though Utah is not the sexiest team for Cooper Flag to go to, I mean, Lauri Markkanen is an All-NBA level guy. Immediately pairing Cooper Flag with an All-NBA level guy would be crazy. Right now on Tankathon 2, like we were saying, the Sixers have the number 2 pick. We didn't sim the lottery and get the random order. We're just going, if the ping pong balls fell in the way that they have the most odds. So Ace Bailey to the Sixers. Again, Sixers, Embiid, just hang tight. It's a top 6 protected pick. So even if you lose, I guess, could you fall out of the top 6 if the you could if enough teams jumped up, but it would be very hard for you to get knocked out of the top 6 and lose that pick to OKC. It would be so Embiid, though, for the Sixers to see where this is going, play the rest of the season out. Maybe Embiid goes back for a couple games and plays like a month and 3 weeks or something, and then they have to shut him down with some injury for the rest of the season. It seems like they could just leave Paul George and Maxey out there and potentially already not win enough games. The rest of the roster is looking pretty bleak, but it would be such Embiid karma luck whatever for him to sacrifice the tanking, try to get up into the top 6, and then just to get bumped out, go to 7. OKC ends up with the 7th pick in the draft. For some reason, I don't know. What's the guy that they need here? What's a very OKC name to throw out there? Oh, no, not Caravan. Who's the guy that just put up... Caravan is kind of an OKC guy, but who's the guy that just went like 20 for 21 in that game? Calibrenner? Something like that? Some Big East guy. It was like a... And I guess I don't know what the conferences are now. College football's, all over the place. I can't even tell you what college basketball, with that realignment, what that looks like. But he's like a Marquette, Creighton, Seton Hall, one of those old school Big East guys. Calibrenner just had like a very Jokic-y type game. Booker with the fall away shot. Has Booker... No, well, but Clay with Booker guarding him at this point in the game. Luka for 3. Oh, Luka, there it is. Brings it back to single digits. Mavs down by 8. But the rest of the top of the draft, not looking too surprising at this point. I guess the Magic are sneaky number 5 right now at 3-6. Haven't dropped a couple games. But the Raptors at number 3. Cooper Flag in Toronto? Chat, would you rather have Cooper Flag in Toronto or Utah? I guess Toronto has had, with Vince Carter, like, face of the league would be a dramatic statement. But in terms of that high-level superstar magazine cover, a magazine cover superstar? Yeah, like Toronto's had the magazine cover superstars before. I guess so is Utah. Karl Malone, was he on any magazine covers back in the day? We're talking about for good reasons. Being a star for the cover shoot, feature story, good reason magazine cover. Vince Carter, is this a hot take? I don't know. Old heads, correct us if we're wrong. If there's any old heads in the chat, please let us know if we're off on this take here. But I feel like Vince Carter has more name value than Karl Malone and John Stockton. Though John Stockton, in terms of name value, having a pretty fantastic year this year with Not Like Us. I guess so is Karl Malone. The name value is back there as well. But again, in terms of the heights that a star has reached, and in terms of that popularity factor, Vince Carter was definitely more popular than John Stockton and Karl Malone, right? Like was Vince Carter the most popular player in the league at a given time? And I just don't I feel like, again, we're reformed sports podcast streamers. Like, a lot of people would just say that Vince Carter was the most popular player in the early 2000s. They'd make some point and not really know, and just claim, and they might be right. Like, there's a pretty good chance that you could throw that out there. And Vince Carter, you could find maybe any 2-month period where he played and was at the peak of his powers there and go, oh yeah, look at this. Vince Carter was the most popular player in the league. Look at the jersey sales. Look at this, and blah, 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 blah. But, where it, to be honest, for people that were back in the day, chat, what was Vince Carter's status in terms of those other players? Was he actually the guy? Because you got, Shaq in LA, of course. But there's always that thing about the dunking guard, too, where in terms of, again, popularity, Edwards is he a notch more popular than he is? He's I can't even say it because, again, being in the Western Conference, he's going to hear this and get mad and, dunk on Wemby 6 times the next time he plays us. But, for guys where the popularity outpaced the talent, do we need a stat for popularity over talent expected contributed? What stat is that? Is that the first Rem and Sam advanced analytic? Popularity over talent? Because Vince Carter, again, it's not that the talent wasn't way up there. But what was that popularity number on the 2K scale compared to the overall player skill. But again, a player as popular as Vince Carter, he's probably going to get another overall hire or two back in the day. If Vince Carter, peak of his powers, was playing right now, but trying to quit Toronto, what would his 2K rating be? My gut tells me if he's mid-quit, mid-tank, where it's like the vibes are bad, he's probably like a 92, 93, because you always, until later in his career, there was always a jump shot thing as well, too. That if you're just going from like a numbers standpoint, a build a player, again, a grading a player out in a metric system, you could bump him a couple of notches for that. But him compared to where Kobe was at, and Shaq at that time, and Duncan definitely, of course, too, in terms of the... Duncan is the inverse of that stat we were talking about. Duncan is the talent over popularity metric, which is the second Rem and stat. Rem and stat? Is that what we need to call our stats department? The Rem and stats department? I feel like we need to get Sam's name in there somehow, but his second year in the league, he was 25 a game, and then his third year in the league in 2000, he was 27 a game. He was All-NBA both of those years. And those were his only 2 All-NBA appearances. So right out of the gate, Vince Carter all on the MVP ballot 3 years in a row. I didn't know that he had that kind of an impact too as a rookie right away. I guess, 16th on the MVP ballot. He was probably, was that like 1 vote? Let's see how many MVP votes he got as a rookie. 45% of the field, though, is not too bad. He only made 6 shots a game as a rookie that year, and somebody voted him for MVP of the league. And he was making 6 field goals a game. He's 18 points a game. Good stats, but still. Oh, speaking of Karl Malone won the Michael Jordan MVP trophy. Of course, it wasn't the Michael Jordan MVP trophy back then, but now on Basketball Reference, it's labeled the Michael Jordan MVP trophy, and Karl Malone. that's so funny. Karl Malone played in this era. Fortunately, they didn't name it for him, but a guy that they played against, and that just constantly beat him. Like, Karl Malone's highest achievement in his career is now named after him. I guess, does Karl Malone deserve nice things? Of course he does. Are we live? We just mean, we're good people, chat. We love second chances. We love empathy. Anyways, his all NBA appearances the next 2 years, if we're looking at the more popular guys. But, if Karl Malone is winning MVP of the league, there's a good... I mean, Vince Carter is probably already more popular than him if somebody's just giving him 1 MVP vote at that point. But Steve Francis, was he taking some popularity points back in the day? So, All-NBA 2000, Shaq, Garnett, Peyton, Kidd, Duncan. Oh, how can we forget about Iverson? Of course, Iverson was definitely... Iverson was definitely the most popular player. So we can never say that Vince Carter was the most popular player of that era. And can we say that he was the most influential too? Again, Iverson was the guy from this era. So I don't know how this turned into a Vince Carter thing, but Toronto, I guess they need their guy. Toronto needs their legend. Don't let Vince Carter hear that. We actually like Vince Carter, and I don't want him to get upset, but a generational talent for Toronto, Cooper Flag. Could they finally get one? I guess we don't want to disrespect Scotty Barnes either. The man is the face of the league, after all. Luka driving to the basket and one. Still now where it was. So it's really been that one. And again, the basketball is a game of runs, but it feels like the games now are either, they really are like a dramatic swing either way, or they'll be really close and then it'll be a close game, or just that one run in the first quarter now has been the deciding factor so far in the first half. it's been basically a 10, 11-point game the entire way through. So the Mavs, of course, maybe not being able to make up some points without Doncic is not always great. But the Knicks as well, too. Speaking of the Bucks season going awry, down 16 in New York at the half. I'm not looking at the Knicks box score, but I'm going to say this is a big Karl Towns game. Dame Lillard has 15 points, no three-point attempts. For some reason, this is my favorite Dame Lillard stat line ever, but his 15 points are not enough to overcome the deficit. Now has been cut to 14. But yeah, Karl Towns is the only thing good for the Knicks. 24. Karl Towns is cooking this year, baby. Karl Towns is having a good year. Let's get a Karl Towns stat check here. I think he's probably up over 23, 24 a game. And there's only a couple years ago we had all those guys scoring 30, but I feel like the amount of guys this year in the 25-point range. Okay, so he's at 23, but yeah, he's still shooting an insane three-point percentage at 57%. Remember when he was in the 70s, chat? He was like 70-some% at one point. I guess we're 7 games in, so it was not that long ago. But he had 34 that other night in Atlanta, 5 for 9 from the three-point line. And then at Houston, 17, but he was 44 as well on Halloween versus Bam Adebayo in Miami. This is on a road stretch as well. So returning home tonight, giving the Garden a good show. Who has been in the Garden since Hinchcliffe between now and the Knicks? Who has all played the Garden since then? But the Knicks are back. Brunson is back. Towns is at 26. Towns just hitting every shot right now. I think Towns has outscored the rest of this starting lineup. Hart has 8. Bridges has 4. Brunson has 5. Anunoby has 6. Brunson's 1 for 7 from the field. Not shooting the ball well tonight. It's not going to matter. They're playing Dame. Is Brunson the one guy so far that Dame is... The shooting numbers have not been bad? Or not been good against him, sorry. They've actually been... And I don't think Dame's defense would necessarily be the reason for that. Recherche, our guy Borat with 5 points, following up his 30-point performance from the other night. Tobias Harris is cooking a little bit in the third quarter as well. So 90 seconds left in this game. The Suns and the Mavs. 90 seconds left in the half, sorry. Suns up by 10. Durant driving on Powell. Make that Suns up by 12 as he gets the running layup to go. And I was going to say, can the Mavs keep this within single digits? Can they get this to like 6 or 8? But it seems like the Suns are going to keep him at arm's length. And Kyrie was doing the same with the defender. It's an offensive foul. Unfortunately, at arm's length, that's going to get you the call. Do these refs need LASIK eye surgery as well? Who just got the LASIK tweet? Was that was the NFL refs the other night for the the Bengals Ravens game. Shout out to Zach Taylor for going for 2 points there. I still don't really know what I would have done in that situation, but the problem also for the Bengals was, their record's not very good this year. So this game is kind of like, and I saw as well, too, that their playoff chances dropped from like 36 to 32%. So it was like, okay, maybe from a math standpoint, their season's not over. Like, that doesn't seem like that big of a drop. But if it won, I feel like it, playoff percentage-wise, is that more useless than win percentage? But I feel like it might have jumped higher than it dipped. But so maybe that's maybe going for the 2 then was the right idea overall. But I do feel like their playoff chances are now a little bit, I feel like they've taken a little bit of a bigger hit than just what those numbers would necessarily bear out there. So if we lose to Buffalo this week, we'll also be 4-6 in the AFC. Denver right now is in the wild card at 5-4 based on win percentage. Chargers at 5-3. So if Denver loses this week, which if they're playing Kansas City, though Fataport, our guy, he's 0-1. He said that they were going to beat the Ravens last week and they couldn't even cover. So we'll see what happens. He said that they were going to beat the Chiefs this week, and this was going to be the Bo Nix winning streak. So we'll see if it's maybe just the Bo Nix win. But they'll potentially be 5-5. So I guess 5-5, 4-6. They're still, very much in the playoff race here for the AFC. I guess it's not that bad. I would have thought it would have been a little more impactful losing that game. But maybe that's just for the division. And the wild card is still very much in play as well. Suns up by 11. Doesn't look like the Mavs are going to accomplish our keys to the half. The Rem and Sam keys to the final 90 minutes. Yeah, Suns are at a 13-point lead right now. So I guess Luka could hit a 3 here and cut it to 10. Is 10 like technically single digits? It's right there. He's going to go for the 3. He's sizing up the step back on Grayson Allen. Oh! Grayson Allen swiped and it forced like a little pause hitch in the jump shot. It's not good. 3 off the mark. Suns don't get it to go. Okay, people, we need to take a quick halftime timeout. I'm sorry. This is not a nose pick situation. It's just, must be that time of the year. We've got some kind of dry nose allergy thing going on. Let's, I was going to say lotion up, but we'd have to pause that one big time. And we want people returning for the second half of this stream, not driving them away. So let's get this allergy thing figured out for a couple seconds, and then we'll be right back. We got more stuff to dive into, people. It's not just NBA. There's all kinds of stuff going on in the world. And we'll get into it. Maybe not. We don't want to leave it that vague, but we're going to have some fun when we get back. Give us 1 second. I forgot that we lost our commercial break with the IT issues. So, sorry, we'll just have to pause. Okay, we're back, people. As I was hunting down the allergy meds, I was like, should we be taking the meds in the middle of a live stream? I don't know. Is YouTube going to cut us down for saying that? I guess you guys stay tuned. You'll find out if we took the allergy meds or not. But I guess if somebody wants to do a, do we need like a little men's care sponsorship? A lotion sponsorship? We got to be careful asking for a lotion sponsorship. We're going to get some kind of Diddy lube. People sliding the DMs. But we'll try to power through the allergy med stream. Who do we think we're not? Is this a cold medicine Bill stream? Shout out Bill Simmons. Sam's not here. We'll do it for him. Pepto Billsmall? IT, write that down. But second half of Mavs Suns will fire up in a second. So speaking of John Stockton, oh geez, people, I forgot to grab the thing. Just, can we do it quick? Sorry, people, I didn't grab. I wrote down this list, an important list. And I guess we could just look it up. But I also wrote down something about Jalen Hurts as well, too, that I don't want to forget. So, the Grammy Noms got announced today. Very exciting. We've been looking forward, counting down the days. Us and, 7 other people. But just seeing who is in the field is, of course, always a very, very exciting time. And I remember it got brought up in work and somebody was like, wait a second, you follow that? And I was like, well, you don't like to know who's being talked about as the best albums? And I feel like, especially for the hip hop category of the Grammys, it does get a hot. Is it hot take time? I do think it gets a little more disrespected than it should. I don't think it's all that bad. And I think and maybe we're just being biased as well for last year because we really, really did love that Killer Mike album. But I feel like it's been pretty close. And I know the people are always going to point to, like, what was it, 2014, 2015 when the Heist won and all that stuff and blah, blah, blah. I get, not everybody's perfect. LeBron has the 2011 finals. Everybody has their moments, but for the most part, it's not all that terrible. And I don't necessarily, like, I'm okay with it not necessarily being the 5 best albums of the year as well, too. I think that these can be 2 separate lists. I think it's kind of like we see it in sports as well. Like, first team All-NBA, like, your team still has to be a certain level to get on first team All-NBA, or the season that you have to be having is just so undeniable that it's just, this guy has to be one of the top 5 players in the league, or, back in the day, one of the top 2 or 3 guys at his position. So if there are, if it takes steps, or it's like, hey, we're going to nominate this one because it's the biggest album of the year, and this one for this, like, for these different reasons, I get it filling out those categories and being kind of like the, positions on the All-NBA team. But to go through the field for last year, you had Her Loss, Heroes and Villains, King's Disease 3, Utopia, and Killer Mike with Michael that ended up winning. And let me pull up the years as well, too, just to see what was out there. But, Her Loss was it's one of my favorite Drake albums, and maybe it's just that the newness of that album, the replayability of that whole project compared to some of the other projects maybe makes that one stand out a little bit more. But I really, really go back to that, especially right now, again, with it being newer to some of the older stuff. I really am revisiting that one a lot. Her Loss, Heroes and Villains, King's Disease 3, Utopia, like, that could be your top 5 from that period. And again, the Grammys can span over a course of 2 years, even though it is like a 12-month cycle. And, maybe Utopia, it's like, is that one? And I feel like we were just talking about that a couple weeks ago too, with the Tyler album dropping. that one was, I think, right now the most streamed album daily in the US. So it's like, okay, at some point, just because, some blog called it bad and it got maybe a weird Metacritic score, it's like, obviously people are revisiting it. At some point we just have, it's a good album. I get that. And, maybe if even you go, it's not the best album, like, in your own opinion or whatever, the public opinion at some point. I can be one. I'll add a couple of points to public opinion to my own opinion and just go, okay, like, if I don't think Utopia, and I actually do like, I do like that album. I think maybe more than I guess we'll say the critic consensus of that album was, again, because I think the kids are junking that album anyways. But it's like the Kobe thing where, I might not have Kobe as highly ranked up on my rest in peace. Maybe we should have picked a player that's still alive. But, maybe if there's but just because Kobe's so popular, that's why he's a good example. But, a guy like that where I might not have him so high on my all-time ranking, but because there is such a big consensus about him, in a way, it's like, I'm willing to move him up a couple of spots and be wrong on it because, so many people are seeing it the other way. And if, you would look at an album like that, I guess we don't have to make the case for Utopia today when the Grammy Noms got announced that it got nominated a year ago. But, again, the replay value of that album, I think, is still definitely holding up even right now. But for the ones that got nominated for this year, we were already excited when we saw one of the names that were on this. But this is a fun group, and I think the biggest lock, and I think the most obvious one, was We Don't Trust You, which maybe, looking at the field, if it's the most obvious lock, maybe that says something about the bigger picture. But again, the moment with Kendrick, and, Kendrick himself not releasing an album this year, but that single being attached, or that feature being attached to it on that album, and the album being a good album as well too. You knew that album, and one of the higher selling albums of one of the bigger debuts of the Grammy period. You knew it was going to get locked in. I would have said the Common Pete Rock album would have been a lock. Maybe we would have had it in a lock. Maybe not the number 2 lock, but I would have called that one a lock, and especially with Common's history as well too. Common's been nominated a couple of times, but when Common links up, I guess, mainly Common and Kanye, but when Common's been with a great producer in the past, the Grammys have definitely looked his way, and the albums have always been worthy of it. B is one of the great albums that we always really go back and listen to all the time from 06. 06, Late Registration, The Massacre, B, The Cookbook by Missy Elliott, and The Encore by Eminem. I mean, again, I think the Grammys, The Massacre is one of those albums where that kind of gets the Utopia bump. But that album was so popular. Do you just have to reward it for doing such a big number? And that's another one. I mean, there's not songs on that we don't revisit all the time. I mean, Candy Shop alone is, just from a replay value, going to carry that album from a numbers standpoint. But there's a ton of songs on that album that we go back to. Maybe, Bloat, it is what it is, but that's pretty stacked. That 2-year stretch, that 15 and I think that 14 and 15, when Good Kid, Mad City lost to The Heist. And it's just weird too, because Good Kid got nominated for Album of the Year, and I don't even know if The Heist did, which is just a weird way for the Grammys to kind of, and, again, shout out Bill Simmons, but he had talked about, like, for the NBA voting like a guy like first team All NBA, one second team, and then one MVP or whatever. So I guess, it's a little bit of that. Can you get nominated for Album of the Year and then not win in your own category? But I think it happened in 2014 with The Heist. And then, we don't just want to start throwing darts at people, but is there some questionable nominations in 2015. So these were the nominations in 2015. I guess you guys decide what's going on here. But you've got Eminem. Eminem gets the win with the Marshall Mathers LP2. You've got Common. Common again. Nobody smiling. Childish Gambino, Because the Internet. Wiz Khalifa, Black Holiday. Schoolboy Q, Oxymoron. And Iggy Azalea, The New Classic. So, I mean, even just going through the names there, again, like Common's a legend, Eminem, even Schoolboy Q as well, too. But that's early, some early Schoolboy Q, some early Childish Gambino, early Wiz Khalifa. Like, all these other guys in the category pretty early on. In Kendrick, a little bit of a break there. The next Grammys in 2016, you get Kendrick, Drake, and J. Cole all nominated next to Nicki Minaj with the Pink Print. Shout out. And Dr. Dre with the Compton soundtrack as well. But, we'd have to go back and see. So the 2015 Grammys, that would have been like 2014. Let's see what was dropping around that time. What were the big albums of that year that could have potentially competed? Pharrell dropped a big album. Lecrae dropped a top 10 album in 2014. Rick Ross. So actually, I think we might need to go back one more year to 2013. Just to see if there were some obvious ones left out. A$AP Rocky, Long Live A$AP. Yeah, J. Cole dropping Born Sinner. Nothing Was the Same as well, too. I get Nothing Was the Same was nominated, I think, in the next one. But maybe outside of those couple of years, again, I think the Grammys have always done pretty good. But this is a year for the critic list, I think, versus what ended up getting nominated, because I think the Common Pete Rock one is going to be pretty synonymous with year-end top fives and the Grammys being a top 5 list. You've got, then after that, Eminem with the death of Slim Shady, Coup de Grace, Folie Du, Death to Slim Shady, Folie Du. I mean, the reviews for Slim Shady felt like a little, I guess Folie Du was called the worst movie of all time. So definitely was not being called, this album was not being called that. And this album, I would not say, I would defend this album as being a good album. I wouldn't say, Eminem, that's just Eminem being a legendary figure and dropping some of the most iconic albums that we've ever seen. Holding him to his own standards is almost impossible. But when we're going back to that work conversation about the Grammys, the one album that they did say that they were like, yeah, this album is actually really good, this is the one that I listen to all the time, is Eminem. And again, we're in the era now where, people that grew up with Eminem, listening to Eminem as little kids and stuff. But I guess was that, I don't know what the parent situation, how that was, was it parents in the car playing Eminem? Eminem definitely, though, like now, like Houdini is in commercials. Like Eminem's a grandpa. Eminem is family friendly now. It's so funny. It's funny how, and I don't even know, I guess the rappers can still get, the street stereotype as well too, even though the Hollywood thing, the influencer thing, there's a little more direct line to it. And, maybe it's not as prevalent as it once was. But again, the game is so much bigger now that I feel like that statement's not even true. Just the amount of people involved on levels that we don't even know as well too. I'm talking about, guys actually, moving stuff on the streets and pushing tapes and stuff. Are they selling mixtapes on the streets still? But, the underground SoundCloud streamer guys, there's still definitely and there's still crossover between the streets and the game, for sure. But I like Snoop, like how Snoop has just becomes, and Eminem I don't think, I mean, he definitely hasn't done the Snoop route where Snoop is, it's not even that Snoop is family friendly now. It's like the way Snoop chases the bag. And I mean, we all love Snoop for it because the thing is Snoop is like the one thing that actually intrigues people about national TV. Snoop is like Snoop Dogg is carrying cable TV at this point. Not even cable, just like the antenna TV, the big networks, NBC. I mean, he is NBC at this point. I forget what I was watching the other day. I was watching, was it Monday Night Football? I think it was Monday Night Football. And it was on ABC. I knew my brother was tapped into the Manning cast, so I was, we're too nice sometimes. I was like, we'll let him watch the Manning cast. We'll throw this game on ABC. We won't kick him off the streaming service. But hopefully he did watch it too. It's not like we reached out and go, hey, how was the Manning cast? Hopefully you watched. How was the fourth quarter guest on the Manning cast? Did you like that joke at minute 7? We didn't check in on him, so hopefully we didn't waste it for nothing. But we threw the game on ABC, and it was one of the commercials, and I was like, let me just see what's going on the other channels on a random Monday night. And the only thing that kept me intrigued for like 30 seconds was Snoop. And I don't even remember what he was doing on NBC on a Monday night. I think it was Snoop in a show, and then it just went right into a Snoop Dogg commercial. But, everybody loves Snoop. Everybody loves Eminem now. The Grammys always have loved Eminem. So he is now back. And when was his last nomination? Because, obviously, legendary. But, I guess we're looking in the noms. We forget with Eminem, we need to look in the winning categories. His last win was 2015 with the Marshall Mathers LP2. And just to double check, he has not been nominated since then. So just a refresher on what he's dropped since then. So he did not get nominated for Music to be Murdered By? The Juice WRLD feature didn't get him a nom? So Revival, Kamikaze, and Music to be Murdered By. I don't think it'll be the trio that'll go down in Eminem's history. For sure. In 100 years, maybe longer than that, because, post-nuclear war, I don't know how long it'll take record stores to reemerge. But when record stores reemerge and for some reason all these albums have survived, are they going to be pulling records from the record store of this Eminem trio? I'm not necessarily certain, but if they find a Death of Slim Shady coup de grace in there, that might be a nice surprise. And to be honest, I'm a little surprised that, because we'll get into some of the songs as well too that got nominated, and they were I kind of like what they did with some of the songs where they paid tribute to some albums. Like the Rhapsody album got a couple of song nominations. I really love that album. And that's an album where I think a couple of, the Asteroid song that got nominated is phenomenal. It's a song that we've been junking for a long time. And Hit Boy as well, too, is one of our favorite producers. So just him being on that track is going to make us gravitate toward that a little bit more. But, is it start to finish as good as some of the other albums? You have to start, if you're going to start nitpicking and making the case. I like that she was able to get love in the field, but they were able to still go a couple other different directions with the album category. And I'm a little surprised that they didn't do that with this Eminem album, and they didn't nominate the Fuel song for best rap. Would you go best? Yeah, I guess best rap performance, right? I know it's not going to be, if you're going to go just straight up song. I think Houdini did get nominated for song though, and performance. Yeah, it got nominated for. Are we in the? I'll make sure I'm in the right tab here. Yeah, best rap performance. And Houdini, one of the bigger songs of the year, the biggest single off the album for sure. But if you're just going bar for bar with Houdini for Fuel, with the JID feature, and it also has probably, I don't know, would we call it the best Eminem bar on the album? But definitely the most the most what did he just say bar on the album when he does the, so many essays. R.A.P. He didn't leave out a P, did he? But that JID feature is just crazy, and I've been re-listening to that a ton lately as well too. I mean, JID, we need the album, man. But his flow on that and his flow on 151 Rum, which is another song that we've been playing a lot recently, are just crazy. And we'll talk a little bit more about that big three in a second. That, big three of the 2020s. But you listen to his flow and it's like, oh man, the talent is right there. But I mean, maybe the best, I guess, is it the best non-beef related verse of the year from JID? So I guess if Drake doesn't respond, because that's the only way the beef doesn't escalate, right? Because he obviously could have just dropped like that and been like, whatever, maybe I'll pop on a feature and do some other song, take another shot, which maybe looking back was the way to do it instead of just straight up. But, credit to Drake. Credit to Drake. I don't know if we're jumping ahead of ourselves. And maybe we should, but is there another nominee we haven't mentioned yet? Oh, yeah, there's 2 nominees that we haven't mentioned yet. Doechii with Alligator Bites Never Heal. Shout out. Did we say that right? Again, we're not on TikTok. I don't know how to say any of these names. I'm like an old man. I literally just log on to Spotify, check the music. I just see what John talks music. He tell what new music is dropping. Make sure I see all the new albums that are out, and I just go on Spotify and listen to them. And that's how we follow this stuff. Check the Wikipedia page every now and then. But shout out, Alligator Bites Never Heal, picking up the nomination, a late release in the cycle as well too. But our guy J. Cole locks up another Grammy nomination with a mixtape. 2 mixtapes in this as well too. Might Delete Later gets the are we going to call it the 5th nomination? It gets one of the 5 nominations. Shout out to our guy J. Cole. I believe even in this album drops a bar about how he feels disrespected by the Grammys, and that's obviously for losing versus Tyler, not necessarily not getting nominated. So his status as like an actual, not that he wasn't like an actual legend, but the feature in terms of the industry as well too, I think that feature run has propped him up in a way where, I mean, this project, again, if we're talking about ranking it in their own discographies, maybe not, it's not even maybe, is this probably, if you're going this versus Sideline Story, just on what's on Spotify, what are you going to be replaying the least? I feel like just I like Sideline. And again, I really like this album too. I'm just trying to take the unbiased mask off, and the secret to us is, we love J. Cole. We're going to be playing all his songs. But if we're trying to, see what the public is seeing, maybe the Gangsta Grills mixtape with Dreamville. Does the Forest Hills live album count? But, just in terms of overall start to finish quality, I feel like you might, because this is more compact than Sideline Story, and it's even shorter now that 7-minute Drill's off there. It's a nice tight 11 songs. But, we're not going to do our top 10 year-end list right now or whatever. But if we're talking quality on the list versus what the Grammys did here with nominating J. Cole, again, hot take for us. I don't think it's too far off, baby. I really like this album again. And I think, again, even if it's not J. Cole's strongest album, we can only nominate what we had in the field this year. And I don't think this is too far off. And if we're looking at J. Cole's status as a legend in this album as well too, one of the bigger albums in terms of numbers, and all the singles in this album, all the songs in this album were, flooded throughout the charts. It wasn't, charting the same way that the, maybe the other songs from the Beef were. But, I mean, the presence from this album was definitely felt. Do we have a first week number on this one? Let me see. Yeah, it was at 115. 115 units. And I think that'd be enough to crack the top 10 for the year, if I remember correctly. We'll look this up enough and we'll remember it at some point, people. But now that the Tyler album is in here as well, that's another spot on the list taken. Tyler is now obviously the number one of the year for albums released in 2024, because Days Before Rodeo still the number one, still the only one to get over 300K, but Tyler sneaking in there. And yeah, J. Cole right now number 10 with Might Delete Later. So top 10 release of the year. It would have debuted at number one had it, I think, was it a Taylor Swift album sitting there. So still behind Rod Wave. Rod Wave selling 127,000 units in his week one. We still don't trust you doing 127.5. But again, I don't think this is going to be a look back at the Grammys and go, how did Might Delete Later get nominated? Because again, I was prepared to go into the year-end list and go, actually, I think this album, start to finish has a lot more quality on it than you would think. And if you look at the consistency of this album compared to a lot of the albums that dropped this year, it's just as simple as that. Like, this album is much, if you're just going to, there's a lot of ways, if you're just going to break it down in like one metric or one way to do it, whatever, there's a lot of way to rank the albums and figure out how you're going to get a top 5 or whatever. But if you just almost go as simple as like, what album am I going to play from start to finish the most? Because you can, again, like with some of these other albums, you can go, am I taking moments off the albums? Is there peaks and valleys? And there's a group of maybe a run of songs from a certain album where it's like, is this run of songs on this album the best run of songs on any album of the year? But is the whole album itself, however it ends up laying out for whatever album it may be. But where is it at in my list right now? I mean, yeah, I don't know what a hot take is, but I'll say it's in my top 15. I don't know if that's too vague, because once you start getting down a little bit, it's like, okay, American Dream versus Might Delete Later. I think maybe some hip hop heads would start giving J. Cole the nod there. But again, I don't think this is going to be this is not like a, what are the Grammys doing? I think the 7-minute drill thing is maybe not the brightest moment of his career, and maybe, just his whole handling of the beef as well too. Shout out to the hip hop DX pod. What's that? What is that called? The channel is Hip Hop DX. It's DJ Head, shout out, Elliot Wilson as well too. A couple of legends. But the bigger picture, the podcast on the Hip Hop DX YouTube channel. And they've, DJ Head, West Coast guy, he's given some some vague behind the scenes stuff about what's been going on with especially with this Might Delete Later tape as well too, and some of the tracks that have been on there. And you go, okay, was J. Cole maybe taking all the right steps leading up to this and then getting out of it? But, I don't think he necessarily missed. I mean, obviously the only misstep was 7-minute drill in terms of, the whole bigger picture. But if we're talking, off the mic in terms of how he moved with the different people, I don't think he did anything too crazy. But all that being said, I think this album is right in the mix for, if you're trying to say if this is the top 5 albums from this period, I think this is right in the mix. Because the other thing is too, every album that was nominated was dropped in 2024. There was nothing from 2023 that got in, which I don't even think there was anything from 2020. I think the real statement is nothing from 2023 got snubbed. And I think most of the stuff that was quality from then released earlier in the year, at least from a big powerhouse standpoint. The big album that dropped in this window from a number standpoint that was released in 2023 was For All the Dogs and Drake. But I don't think anybody was lining this one up as a snub going in. When was Maps was May. I guess Scaring the Hose? No, Scaring the Hose was March as well, too. You know, JPEG Mafia's newest album was this year. Okay, so yeah, the Doja Cat album dropped as well. The Rod Wave? No, I think Rod Wave was at the end of the last cycle. So yeah, I think in terms of I think the only two top 10 albums that would have been in the mix were, you know, in terms of the big artists, were Drake and Doja Cat. But I think in terms of snubs, most of those are going for 2024. So the obvious one, if we're gonna match up the year-end list with the Grammys, is gonna be Blue Lips and Schoolboy Q. And I'm a little surprised as well too with just the whole Blue Lips type thing, because Schoolboy Q from a numbers standpoint is a little underrated. Like those, you know, Oxymoron and Blank Face LP, I think those were both number one albums. But not even just like, you know, he's not doing like Yeet numbers. And Yeet's doing good numbers. Shout out our guy. Sam's got stock. But, you know, he was selling, you know, he's doing 100K plus. Really getting in the mix. What did Habits and Contradictions do? That one didn't get nominated, but let's see what it did commercially. Oh, yeah, this one was kind of a underground tape. 2012. I'd have to go back to a young little preteen. This would have been like iPod Rem. It would have taken a long... So yeah, it would have had to have been on the radio to even have been, you know, near touching our iPod, or been, you know, some kind of big, major, easy way to access that guy at this point. His name would have had to have been super known, I guess. It's because I guess, you know, there's some legends, like, you know, a guy like Tupac and Biggie are like, I don't even remember, you don't even remember learning about Tupac. It's just, you always remember hearing about him and he's always around. So, you know, it's like, oh, if I'm going to get into hip hop, you just know that you know, Tupac is a place where you can start. So, you know, even if he's not on the radio in 2012, you still know to go out there and, you know, try to access it. But with his next albums, and maybe I'm just remembering this incorrectly, but Oxymoron, yeah, number one with 139 copies in 2014. And then Blank Face LP did also debuted at number 2, did 74. So it went down a little bit, but for some reason, you know, again, with a powerhouse name like Schoolboy Q, and album that was as great as Blue Lips, you would think it'd have been, you know, maybe by word of mouth or something. Just an album that maybe had done a little bit of a better number than that. But, I mean, obviously numbers aren't anything. Doesn't take away from how great this album was. And I think it was a consensus top 5 album. And again, the fact that Schoolboy Q has some Grammy history as well is a little bit surprising. So, did they go... I guess you would say they did J. Cole over Schoolboy Q because they're a little bit more peers, but did they go Eminem over Schoolboy Q? Because, I mean, it's really I would say no debate in the people. You know, you don't want to just start discarding a whole bunch of people, but, you know, I'd say the people that were really into hip hop this year would just say that Blue Lips was a pretty outright better album than Eminem. Even though, again, you could go, oh, well, was, you know, Houdini, could you make a song? Did the Eminem thing have a better song? Like, whatever. But, I mean, you're just going to play Blue Lips start to finish way more than you are going to play Eminem. And the amount that it's been replayed for me as well, too, like, it is just the most replayable album from this year. And maybe the auditorium start to finish, I guess, you know, Alligator Bites Never Heal is pretty great, but the start to finish vibe of the Auditorium, because Alligator Bites Never Heal is a mixtape technically, so there is a little of, and it is paced really well too, so that's, one of the great things about it. It's why it's nominated. But when you're in that studio album-y type thing, there's just a little bit more of a polish to it, and the vibe of the Auditorium is just great start to finish. And I think Blue Lips is the only other one that you could say is better. So, and with the performances as well too, both of just getting left off completely, I think, is the most surprising thing. I think, again, if you go, okay, they're looking at it in this way, where Blue Slide's not getting a nom for Best Melodic is pretty shocking. And I didn't really understand what they meant by melodic as well too, because I mean, Lovin' on Me by Jack Harlow was one of the biggest songs of the year, so you knew that that one was going to get the Grammy nomination in one of the categories. But did it get rap performance? I think it might have gotten rap performance. Let me look at this up a different way here. I thought I could go to Instagram, but apparently you can't trust it. Actually, we had Best Rap Performance opened. We've been 6 tabs over since then. Do we need to re-moisturize people? I think it's time. The itchiness out of control today for some reason. Oh, jeez, we should have cut the camera before we started doing that. Oh, geez. Hopefully I didn't leave anything. we don't. I guess love to all of our audience. Love to everybody out there, all walks of life. But I wouldn't say that Harlow was going bar for bar with Schoolboy Q on Lovin' For Me, where, again, if Lovin' For Me is going to get nominated, I'm not going to be mad at that because of the number that it did. But, okay, it wasn't Best Rap Performance. Maybe it was just Best Rap Song. Let's go. Let's get another tab here. Tab City, people. This is how you do it. Probably should have written it down. But especially since Blue Lips was like a, an homage track as well. You think that maybe, do you get a little extra love for that? But in the best rap performance category, anyways, we've got Cardi B with Enough, back again, storming through the Grammys. Common and Pete Rock with When the Sun Shines Again. Doechii with Nissan Altima, which, again, best rap performance. Now, this is what we're talking about here. That's a rap performance. Doechii on Balloon is not for this window. Maybe the next window. I don't know how the Grammy feels about the queefing line. Can we say that live? Maybe that's only for the Tyler album. But Nissan Altima is another great track for our rotation. We'll update the Spotify playlist, guys. Follow that. The link is, it's in our link tree, which I believe it's also in the YouTube link bio. It's on our Instagram, follow the Rem and Sam podcast Instagram bio as well too. So if you guys want to follow our Spotify playlist, we'll update with all these songs we're talking about that we've been playing recently. But when we're talking about people dropping bars, that's what we're talking about. Houdini with Eminem, like we mentioned earlier. Future, Metro, Kendrick with Like That. Glorilla with Yeah Glow. And then Kendrick with Not Like Us, getting the double nomination on this one. And maybe this is maybe this isn't a hot take, but maybe this is the hottest take of the whole thing. Is 2 nominations in this category for Kendrick too little? Because if we're just talking about what are the most rememberable tracks of the year, I mean, the first 4 you think of are like all Kendrick tracks. And if we're just talking, I don't know what the rules are for streaming and, how a song, I guess the song has to be submitted. That's really the only rules for the Grammy. So maybe Kendrick didn't just submit all the songs, but if Kendrick had submitted everything, like, I mean, is Houdini better? Houdini's not better than 616 in LA. It's not better than Meet the Grams. I don't know if I guess 616 in LA would be the one that's on Insta, so I don't know what the rules would be. But again, if you just submit it, I don't know why the Grammys wouldn't necessarily turn it down because the quality of the track is still there. I mean, he dropped Watch the Party Die as well too. What was the day on that? Let's actually look that up. The Kendrick Instagram page right above, right on top of the search history. That's how you know we've been playing this song a lot, is when you go to Instagram when you go to Instagram and go Ken, and it doesn't bring up Kendall Jenner, it brings up Kendrick Lamar. But Kendrick dropped this song on 9/11. Whoa. We had to take down another stream for some jokes, so I think we'll give ourselves a couple of stream break before we start making jokes about Kendrick attack on 9/11. But he dropped Watch the Party Die on 9/11, which I believe, no, actually I think it went into August, right? Right, chat? You guys know the Grammy deadline. Yeah, it was August 30th. So I guess Watch the Party Die, he'll have to submit it for the 2025 Grammys. But I mean, how many tracks are nominated here? 7 tracks? No, I'm dumb, chat. No, yeah, 7 tracks. 1, 2, 3. So if you've got Kendrick and Euphoria, we left out Euphoria. So between Not Like Us, Like That, Meet the Grams, 616 in LA, and Euphoria, I mean, he should have had 5 of the 7 nominations for Best Rap Performance. And then, Best Rap Song is where you can nominate some of the bigger songs of the year. Best Melodic Rap, stick Jack Harlow in that category. Shout out Jack Harlow. We have some Jack Harlow stock still hanging around. The Jackman album, we'll defend the Jackman album. We liked it, even if it wasn't necessarily, the same numbers-wise as some of the other albums that he did. But for which songs were, like, the best songs, bar for bar, and again, we can go back through the lyrics, but the wordplay, I'll double on top, any way you want to break down the songs. I mean, they're vicious, they're poignant. They're going to be songs that are studied in, like, music theory class, being broken down. I mean, we were listening to Meet the Grams the other day, people, and man, it's just, I don't think we didn't give it enough credit in the moment for how brutal that track was, because I remember, check the tapes. We were talking to Sam about it, and I think we said that there wasn't an ether that had dropped yet. We were comparing it to the Nas and Jay-Z thing, and we were like, a lot of great tracks at this point, but nothing that Drake can't come back from if he does it the right way. And then I remember the next morning I woke up and got on Instagram, and Sam was like, I think Ether just dropped, and he had sent me Not Like Us. And I was like, I think you are right. But I think even if Not Like Us hadn't dropped, I mean, Meet the Grams is still, it's still the Ether level song. And maybe it's too vicious. We're just in the moment, you're just like so stunned and so in shock that you have to give it credit. Do we have to take a quick nose blow timeout, chat? This is embarrassing. I just can't pick we can't do a nose pick on the stream. What are we, sitting on the sideline of an NFL game? No, we'll do it in private. We won't. Jeez, chat, this is annoying, but I'm so sorry. Chat, we've got to go pick our nose. Give us 1 second. We're back. We should have just full sent and just done it live. Pause. But nah, maybe next time, chat. Trust me, the allergies are still uh, here for the night. But uh, shout out to anybody else that got nominated over Meet the Grams. Houdini over Meet the Grams. Again, shout out to the Common and Pete Rock album, but Common was not dropping me. Common was maybe the complete. I mean, When the Sun Shines Again, complete opposite of Meet the Grams. Common really trying to send positive vibes the whole time, and unfortunately, just all wiped away by the biggest rap beef in history. But Kendrick definitely winning the year. Are we plugged in, chat? Uh-oh, chat. IT issues. Sorry, chat. Can you still hear us? We'll get plugged back in 1 second, but what is happening, chat? Boogers and loose cables all on one stream? This is crazy. This is chaos, people. This is why you tune into the Rem and Sam pod. 1, 2, 3. Oh, chat. We are back. Oh, geez. We probably shouldn't have made that noise. Can we cut that out? Are we live? But anyways, on the best rap off of that, on the best rap performance, shout out Common and Pete Rock. But moving to the other song categories, yeah, that was best rap performance. Let's go. Should we go? Let's go best melodic rap, and then we'll go best rap song as well. And this year was the year that we were most off of pop music, so we will. This is like our Oscar thing now. We'll have to go back and catch up on what got nominated. But, you got the Charlie XCX album, the Billie Eilish album, the Beyonce album. So are we just saying we have to go listen to the Taylor Swift album? I think that might be it. But for best melodic rap performance, we've got Future and Metro Boomin in The Weeknd with "We Still Don't Trust You." They're giving love to the second album that Future Metro Boomin gave us this year. And I guess, I don't know, did they just look at the track list of the two albums and go, "Oh, The Weeknd's on that one. I guess we'll just give it the nom." But I guess you still got it being part of the beef. I think the Weeknd, from a Grammy standpoint as well too, especially with Take Care being in the mix of The Weeknd versus Drake's side of the beef. I guess maybe the Grammys were looking at that as well too. The Grammys just continuing to disrespect Drake. But again, I guess they nominated Heard Loss last year in a bunch of categories, so not really a ton of disrespect there. But Rhapsody and Erykah Badu with 3 a.m. Again, love seeing some love for that album. Beyonce, Linda Martell, and Shaboozey with Spaghetti. Shaboozey, just, you can't avoid him in any of these categories. He's getting nominated wherever he can. He's on Inside the NBA on TNT. When we saw that, we were like, okay, this is probably going to win Album of the Year or Best Song or whatever. But he will be. Kendrick, if Kendrick is not performing and it's Shaboozey in front of Charles Barkley, then, I guess Charles is anointed Shaboozey to take the win there. But Jordan, now we got to try to say this last name, chat. We don't want to butcher this. The song is called Kalani, featuring Kalani. And then we've got Lotto with Big Mama as well, too. Lotto sneaking in the mix. I mean, Future and Metro Boomin. If it's not Shaboozey, it's probably going to be Future and Metro Boomin in The Weeknd. But, I mean, Rhapsody has taken some wins in categories before. So could we see Rhapsody get on Grammy stage this night in front of Future? I mean, I feel like it's Future, it's Kendrick. It's all that for the Grammys this year. But Rhapsody, what are the odds on that? Rhapsody might be a little bit of a sleeper. But best rap song. And again, there wasn't a ton of songs, I think, from the rap standpoint that if you're trying to nominate songs in terms of the size of the song, I think charts-wise, there was like Megan Thee Stallion had a couple of songs that really charted well this year. I guess, that's another album that got, I guess, you know, you could say snubbed, but I think she also got in the best rap song category as well. But, oh, we should probably specify who went for the Grammys. But for this year, what do we get here? Oh, back to Instagram chat. The internet failing us once again. Kendrick Lamar now up to 57 career nominations in 17 career wins as well. And it, I mean, this year especially shows you the importance of the songs in terms of, if you want a stat pad for the Grammys, I mean, the song is the way to do it. I mean, you know, obviously you can drop a banger album, but you got to get the songs in there. Because, I mean, you can even get a song nominated in a couple lists, but I guess it's even the cross category things as well, too, where you could potentially get like nominated in your own category and then nominated in the general field as well, too. We're slow, chat. We should have just pulled up. Can we say that live? We'll cut that out. We didn't mean that. We weren't thinking clearly, chat. We should have pulled up the whole list earlier and got a look. Yeah, should we just look at record of the year here? See what Not Like Us is going up against. Record of the year. Now and Then with the Beatles. Are they still alive? Texas Hold'em with Beyonce. Espresso with Sabrina Carpenter. 360 Charlie XCX. Birds of a Feather Billie Eilish. Good Luck Babe Chappelle Ronan. Fortnite versus Taylor Swift. All going up against Kendrick versus Not Like Us. Again, I mean Kendrick versus Not Like. I mean, the song is the biggest song of the year. It's just what it is. So if you want to make that case, you can't look really in another direction. But, you know, we'll need to see the odds for this one, because between Espresso, Not Like Us, and Fortnite, that could be a pretty stacked top three in the list. But then you've also got the Beatles in the mix as well, too. And I think Good Luck Babe by Chappelle Rowan as well. Is it Chapel Rowan? Sorry, my bad. Chapel Rowan. I think depending on how the odds lay out. I mean, Billie Eilish, if you get good odds on a Billie Eilish song, I think there is a chance that, you know, we might be sprinkling a little bit of money depending on what goes up here. But also, shout out to the legend himself, Andre 3000. I mean, he doesn't even need to say a word. Kendrick needs to open his mouth to get Grammys. Andre 3000 does not. Andre 3000 just paused. Needs to start, you know, playing that flute a little bit. A New Blue Sun getting nominated for Album of the Year. Unbelievable work by Andre 3000. Was it the music video? Was it the movie? Andre 3K on the blue screen, rolling around watching the album. I think the committee fell in love. But also, yeah, Billie Eilish, Chapel Rowan, Taylor Swift, Sabrina Carpenter, Beyonce, Charlie XCS, Jacob Collier? Did Jesse 4 chat? Did we say that right? Is Jacob Collier like a Disney Channel kid? I feel like we know that name. I feel like he has acting credits. And now he's got Grammy nominations. The multi-talented Jacob Collier. Also Not Like Us in Song of the Year with a bar song by Shabuzi, Birds of a Feather, Die with a Smile, Fortnite, Good Luck Babe, Not Like Us, Please, Please, Please by Sabrina Carpenter, and Texas Hold'em. Let me see if we actually can get odds, because I don't know if the Academy watched, I don't know if the Grammys watched Joker 2, chat, so I don't know if that'll influence their opinion on that Die with a Smile song, but Bruno Mars and Lady Gaga as a Grammy tandem is a pretty powerful duo. That could be a pretty pretty interesting sleeper, depending on what happens. Do we have odds, chat? Okay, we have odds, but I don't know if these are current. Oh, these were odds for the nomination. So, wow, if we're just looking at odds that the Action Network posted in August for the nominations, they had, for Album of the Year, just in general field, Taylor Swift at plus 170 is the favorite to get nominated, most likely nomination. Beyonce, Cowboy Carter, Billie Eilish, Charlie XCX, and then Doja Cat, and then Ariana Grande, Chris Stapleton, Eminem at 4-1, over Chappell Rowan at 5-1, Brittany Howard at 5-1 as well too. So I guess you could say Ariana Grande, Chris Stapleton, Brittany Howard snubs, Eminem at 4-1. Shout out. I think we'll say that that's the win more so than getting the nomination. But do we have odds for the current field? Again, these were announced earlier today, chat. So you'd think the sportsbooks would be on top of it. Pause. But apparently we're going to need to wait and see. But the fields are stacked this year, chat, especially for the general fields. There's going to be some good value here for what plays out, especially since, like, you know, Taylor Swift, the year of Taylor Swift was last year, and it's not like Taylor Swift has slowed down in any way, but, you know, I feel like people kind of blew their Taylor Swift load at the Grammys last year. And Kendrick is emerged, you know, Sabrina Carpenter's hot in a lot of ways. But musically, physically, are we live, chat? You know, she's a hot name on the industry right now. Same with Charlie XCX, Chappell Rowan. They're all hot. You know how it is. But J. Cole, everybody's just hot these days. But did we miss a category, chat? I don't think we missed a category. We hit the three. Oh, did we get to best rap song in general? Let's see here, chat. I think that's what we were going for. Can it load as fast as we scroll? We'll have to see if we can find this category properly here. How far down do they put the rap categories? It's got to be the second category. I mean, if we're just talking genre to genre, is there a... I guess pop, but, like, does that even count as a genre? I mean, rap is wiping all these other... Yeah, they got country wiped down. They got jazz wiped down. What other genres are out there, chat? I feel like R&B is like, you know, little brother genre. It's just like different kind of... It's just singing rap, basically. R&B is pre-rap. And then it gets remixed and then it becomes rap. But best rap song. So, yeah, this is where we got Asteroids by Rhapsody and Hit Boy. Carnival with Kanye West, Ty Dolla $ign, Rich the Kid, and Playboi Carti. Like That, Not Like Us, in Yeah Glow by Glorilla. So I kind of like this field as well, too. Again, you're going to see Kendrick with the double nominations. I guess the Kanye one, maybe you could scratch your head a little bit. Just the need to feel like you need to get vultures involved in the mix. Maybe it was, again, maybe a big moment. And Carnival, just in terms of songs, was, you know, a huge song. So if you're just nominating a popular song for the mix, I guess you could say that gets the popular song nomination. But other than that, I think that would be pretty much the only case for it. But yeah, those would be the three song categories. And then the album categories. So J. Cole now, I believe, is up to 4 Grammy nominations. Let's see. I think we can actually just look this up right here. Because he got the Forest Hills Drive, and then the Off Season, and then the Revenge of the Dreamers. So if you count the Revenge of the Dreamers, he would have been up to 4. And from a legacy standpoint, Schoolboy Q sliding in with the Blue Lips nomination would have been really interesting because that would have been 3 nominations for him. So if you look at the people right now with 2 nominations for Best Rap Album category, you've got Nicki Minaj, Pusha T, DJ Khaled, 21 Savage with Her Loss. So he gets there with the collab album. He's got 2 album nominations. You've got Travis Scott, Metro Boomin, LL Cool J, 50 Cent, Dr. Dre, A Tribe Called Quest, Tupac. And again, you know, like Tribe, Outkast, Tupac, LL Cool J. We get, you know, Dr. J as well, too, with the Chronic. Like, he dropped the Chronic before the Grammys were around. Like, you know, Tupac. I guess Tupac got nominated for the ones he would have gotten nominated for, because it would have, Me Against the World got nominated, one of the best albums of all time, and same with All Eyes on Me as well, too, getting the nod. So he didn't get necessarily disrespected. I mean, you know, you get like, you know, if we're going bigger picture, you know, it's not like we're comparing Schoolboy Q to all these legends in that way, but just in terms of the industry, and at least what we've seen in the window since then, so maybe if you take some of the 90s guys out of it, but even still, like, I guess Outkast, how many did they, I guess they missed 2, right? We're dumb, chat. Because they dropped Southern Cadillac playlist music in 94, and was Aquemini 96? So maybe that one did just get, I think maybe that did get snubbed. Oh yeah, Aquemini was 98. So that's kind of that's kind of a bummer, chat. But again, let's see what was in the field that year. Should we give the Grammys a chance? It was dropped in September of 98. So I don't know exactly what window that would be in, but in the 90, so I guess it would be at least the 99 Grammys. You would have had, in the 99 Grammys, Jay-Z, A Hard Knock Life, Volume 2 winning. Then A Tribe Called Quest, The Love Movement, Capital Punishment, Big Punisher. I almost called it Capital Pun. But Life in 1742 with Jermaine Dupri, and Harlem World by Mace. And then in 2000, the Slim Shady LP wins next to Extinction Level Event by Busta Rhymes, The Real World by Missy Elliott, I Am by Nas, and The Roots, Things Fall Apart. So with the 2000, let's see what the 2000 Grammys recognized here. What was the window for that? Oh yeah, so maybe back then it was simpler times, chat. They just said straight up, if you drop it in 98, we reward you for the year 1998. Yeah, so Miseducation won Album of the Year that year. So I guess if it was just a year-by-year thing, then the 98 Grammys would have been Missy Elliott's Super Duper Fly, Wyclef Jean Presents The Carnival, Life After Death, Wu-Tang Clan Forever, and Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, and the P. Diddy family with No Way Out getting the win in 1998. I mean, No Way Out, Life After Death, Wu-Tang Clan Forever, The Carnival, and Super Duper Flies. Would you go? I guess if we're making the honest list, chat, you know, shout out to our boy Wyclef, but I think you'd have to put, for 98, Aquemini on. Hot take, would you have to put that on there? Over Wyclef Jean, over The Carnival. But again, you know, Wyclef's always dropping good stuff. So it's not like The Carnival is a bad album by any means. But Schoolboy Q, regardless, has the same amount of nominations as A Tribe Called Quest, Tupac, and Outkast, and Lil Wayne. Dr. Dre as well, too. 50 Cent with two nominations in his right. But if he goes to 3 nominations, he now joins a category with Ludacris, Nelly, T.I., Tyler, the Creator, and now J. Cole with 3 solo albums. But J. Cole, 4 nominations with Dreamville. So the people with 4 nominations right now, J. Cole joins Now matches Kendrick, Missy Elliott with 4 nominations, Lupe Fiasco with 4. The Roots and Common both with 5. So Common now surges up into the top 7 of the most Grammy-nominated rappers of all time. So it's Common and the Roots at 5, Drake and Nas at 7, Eminem and Kanye at 8, and then Jay-Z at number 1, way out ahead at number 11. I mean, Jay-Z is like the Kareem of Grammy nominations. This guy's going to have to play. Somebody's going to have to play forever in order to try to catch up to this guy. Drake would have to. I mean, it's 7. That's album nominations. That's not just like, songs total, however you want to calculate it. That's just straight up. He has 11 albums nominated in the Grammys. Drake would have to drop 4 more Grammy nomination level albums, and if he's dropping 1 collab album Grammy level every 4 or 5 albums, he's gonna have to drop 20 more albums before he catches up to Jay-Z. Bully's gonna have to get nominated for a Grammy, which if Carnival got nominated, then maybe there's still hope. Especially now too, it's like the Grammys needing to slip Kanye anything. Pause. Is a Grammy nomination one of those things? But he would need to drop 3 more to try to tie Eminem. Try to tie Jay-Z. Same with Eminem. He would have to drop 3 more. I mean, Kendrick is not going to drop 11 albums in his career, right? Maybe if he just drops music for the rest of his life and he lives to be 90 and we get the 90-year-old Kendrick Lamar on, the flute, that get nominated for an album, then maybe he would catch Jay-Z. But even he wasn't, Kendrick's not doing the same type of turnover that he's doing. And then for a legend to have that same kind of run with that quality would just be pretty crazy. So hot take, I don't know if anybody's catching Jay-Z anytime soon. But J. Cole now matching Kendrick is pretty big. But unfortunately, I think Kendrick might block him one more time because, like we're saying, it's the year of Kendrick. I think Kendrick's going to get all the love. But Kendrick's appearance on an album this year was on a Future album. And that album was, again, biggest album of the year. Is Future going to get a Grammy win before J. Cole? Is that tough for the J. Cole people? I think it is, chat. And is this is Future's first? No, not his first. This is his second, right? Because he got nominated with, nominated in 2023 with I Never Liked You. So once he started doing the Drake disses, the Grammy was like, we're in. We're here for that. But before that, trap legend. But if we're talking about, and what Charlemagne was saying and what they ended up sampling as well too on the We Still Don't Trust You album about it not being a big 3 but really a big 4, and Future has now elevated his name into that, and it's not a disrespect. And we're not trying to get Kendrick dropping diss tracks on the Rem and Sam pod, even though Kendrick, if you want to drop a diss track on the Rem and Sam pod, make no mistake that IT will fire up a beat. And IT can write. I don't know if you'll let IT ghost write for the Rem and Sam pod, but I feel like if you're dropping a diss track on the pod, it's kind of, it's the team versus the team. It's not a ghostwriter thing. Like, we're all a team. We stand together. Like, you know that we're out. Rem and Sam and IT. Like, you guys know what the crew is. So it's not like, we have any. IT's not a ghost, obviously. So it's not like we would have any ghostwriters in that sense. But Kendrick, if you want to attack the Rem and Sam pod, the Rem and Sam pod will go song for song with anybody that tries to step up. IT will get in the lab and cook. But, if Future gets the win before J. Cole, because again, J. Cole has the legacy, has history. I think even with Future getting the win, I think people would still look at it from an all-time standpoint and go, I think J. Cole's resume speaks for itself. But that's still a big, big milestone for Future. That's like a player winning the title before, a certain other player. Which, speaking of which, 30 seconds left in this game, chat. The Grammy nominees have us distracted. And to bring it full circle, it's not Nurkic taking a 3, but it's Nurkic dunking, putting the Suns up by 2. A close game throughout, chat. Unfortunately, The future rant. I mean, you can check the tapes. We weren't paying attention. We're going to have to go back and watch this fourth quarter. But close throughout, Mavs Suns battling to the end. Durant missing the three-pointer, but Nurkic boxing out the whole team. Gafford, Klay Thompson, it doesn't matter. They cannot get around Nurkic? Putting it back in for the mix. But if the other sneaky thing with We Don't Trust You is it is like a good album. If we start going, if there's like a ranking of the albums that won the best album, and we're putting it in that mix as like, these are the hallowed albums, and maybe it's not even that, maybe it is like a year by year thing, and if you want to represent a moment in time in each Grammys, and I guess We Don't Trust You is the thing. But I was thinking about that with Blue Lips as well too, because I honestly thought Blue Lips was a lock. Like, maybe it is just the shock of it not getting nominated. I think as time passed, I would be more and more shocked. I guess I probably won't, because maybe it's the Eminem thing. The Eminem over Schoolboy Q is a little tough for Schoolboy Q, but I was just thinking about how that album would, because I guess I wasn't even thinking about that album as a nomination too. I was thinking about that album winning, because I was like, with Schoolboy Q getting the love from the Grammys in the past, like I would say that this is the best Schoolboy Q album. I think that that's not even a hot take. Well, maybe it is a hot take, because again, he's had some star power with the other albums and some massive hits on him as well too. But I think start to finish, I think this album has much more replay. Not much more, but we're trying to reform ourselves from using too much hyperbole, chat. But I think to us, it has more replay value than the other albums. 10 seconds left. Durant with the ball. He's waiting for the screen. O'Neal's going to set the screen. He's going right. He gives it up. O'Neal with the floater. Why would he give it up? O'Neal missed it. Why would Durant give it up? I think they're going to get bailed out. Nurkic is doing work down low. Like we were saying, chat, we weren't watching this fourth quarter while we were ranting about the Grammy noms, but Gafford is in right now instead of Lively. Is that a fouls thing, chat? Did Lively foul out? Let's get a check here. Because you would think Gafford physically maybe a better matchup versus Nurkic, but we're big Lively. Oh, I guess no Lively tonight, chat. That shows you how we were much more focused on the Grammy noms than we were the Mavs center rotations. But Durant with 26 tonight, 8 of 14 from the field, 3 of 6 from 3, continuing the same efficiency. Booker 1 for 8 from 3 with 13 points, but 12 assists. And I feel like his playmaking as well, too, has been up this year in general. Let's see what we have for an assist number. Booker, is he a point guard? Isn't he a point guard? There's times when you're like, Booker, I think he can do more as a playmaker than you thought. And then there are times when you're like, nah, yeah, Booker's the 2 guard. Get him off the ball. Get him scoring. He's at 6 assists a game, chat. He was at 7 last year, so he's kind of in the same range. But these last couple of years are, right back in the mix where he was at back in, was that 17, 18, 19, where early is Devin Booker a point guard years, 6.8, 6.5 assists. So I guess, high-end Devin Booker playmaking is going to get you 6 or 7 assists a game. But 12 assists a game tonight. What's the review? Tony Brothers? Ooh, we're like the announcers leaning in trying to listen to the call. 2 shots. Nurkic, going to get 1. Potentially put it away here. Phoenix, can they take the nail-biter win in Dallas and keep the winning streak alive? Is Phoenix going to win the West? Phoenix versus Boston? Durant versus Tatum? Ooh, that could be a fun finals. But we're 8 games in, chat. Let's not get our hopes up. But, it would have been a really fun legacy thing for Schoolboy Q to like be in that mix with that guys. T.I. also with 3 nominations. Is he like a modern? I guess T.I. though, you know, Jay-Z. T.I. literally wanted to shoot up the charts. Like, speaking of charts, you know, T.I. was, I mean, obviously getting nominated for the quality, but was a massive, massive artist as well too back in the day. Not that Schoolboy Q isn't, but I don't think he has the radio presence that maybe a guy like T.I. did. So, they put .8 back on the clock. Nurkic misses the first one. Just as they scripted out. Dramatic fashion. So imagine you miss 2 in a row to potentially win the game, but the fans also get chicken tenders with .8 left. Like, just buzzer beaters all over the place. That would have worked out for Dallas. That would have been great. But with .8 left, you know, are we going to see another Luka magic? We've seen Luka buzzer beaters live before, chat. It wouldn't be the first time. Is Luka going to be the official buzzer beater of the Rem and Sam pod? Do we need to buzzer beater? Do we need to pause that? We might have to. I don't know if we can have anybody be the official beater of the Rem and Sam pod. I don't think we can have I don't think we can have a guy do that. We'll see what kind of magic Jason Kidd is able to drop after this timeout. But we also have Tyler with another album in the mix now that will be for the next Grammy cycle. So as he sits at 3 nominations, Tyler, the Creator, that will probably move. I mean, the field for 2026, I mean, you know, you got Jid, Kendrick Lamar, ASAP. You know, who knows who could be dropping in this run here. It could be a pretty stacked category. But the Tyler Chromacopia album feels like an early half lock, semi-permanent. Here we go, Luka. Oh, that's a terrible shot. Oh, it was kind of close. It was not a terrible shot. It was a bad shot, but it almost went in. Definitely a quick jack up, kind of going for the foul, sloppy form type ordeal. But shout out to Phoenix. Getting the win. Pulling out a tough one. Shout out to the 2025 Grammy class. I love just looking at it. I love that we finally got back to this place. I can't start. I mean, it's already happening because we're already in the other window, but just seeing what's dropping, looking for the next one, seeing what the next window is going to be. On to the next one, chat. We don't even have a winner. And we're already looking at the next cycle. But that Doechii album, Doechii just makes me think of Mochi. So I guess we're going to think of it that way. But this is only her 3rd mixtape in general. And this is really the first big project that that she did that we were familiar with and really started to lock in on her. But I think this is just kind of her first big project in general. Like, looking at what else she has on just in terms of what's on streaming for Spotify, her other 2 mixtapes one of them is 9 songs. It's 14 minutes. And the other one is a little shorter at 7 songs, but it's a longer runtime at 21 minutes. So we're talking 35 minutes of total runtime between the 2 albums on Spotify. And this album alone, this mixtape alone, with Alligator Bites Never Heal, is 47 minutes of run. I mean, basically doubles what else she has on. Or, doubles the amount of album music that she had available on Spotify. So, I mean, Rise, I don't know if anybody else, who else, Chad, has had like a faster rise up through the ranks into because I was thinking like Corday, and she's not, I mean, debut album, mixtape, but she's not even to the debut album yet. Like, Corday got nominated off the debut album. I was going through back and looking at some of the debut albums that got nominated, but even like, you go back into when it started into the late 90s and early 2000s, a lot more of, you have 2 and 3 debut albums getting nominated every year, but that's kind of where the state of the game was at too, a little bit newer in terms of that mainstream, your post Tupac and Biggie at that point. And, the radio streams versus, and that's, the radio thing might be a different thing, but like in terms of where the game is starting to spread out throughout the country and the people that are participating in it, you're really starting to see the rise there. And I mean, you even get like a guy like 50 Cent, though, that drops his debut album and then gets nominated. Like, he still has the heavy mixtape run going through it. So, Cardi B, I guess Jay Electronica. It has to be Jay Electronica just because Jay Electronica has like dropped one album ever in his entire life. What is he, like just one song and one album? I don't even know, chat, but incredible. The next legend in our midst, Doechii. And I'm not even being sarcastic, chat. I'm all in. It's you love to see it. She killed it on the Tyler. She killed it on the Tyler album. Like we said, Nissan Altima is a great. I mean, there's tons of songs off that album that we've been really replaying. I guess we do replay that album, and that's something we've been trying to do more, chat, is play albums, more in full. So we needed to get a better. We'll get back to like pulling the singles out and get more into the playlist vibes. But I mean, J. Cole got nominated, so I'm glad the Grammys went off script this year, getting our guys some extra love, especially now, especially in a down year as well too, which really gives us hope for the fall off, because I mean, that's another one that could be in this next window. So if it's the fall off versus Kendrick, chat, 2026 could be crazy. 2026 could be crazy, but 2025 is crazy as well too. So you've got, shout out to Schoolboy Q getting left off the list. Vince Staples as well too. Another year-end list guy that did not get nominated. That will be super high up. There's a couple more albums that, I might have higher up on than some of these other ones on a year-end list. And my year-end list is still not really quite done yet, because there's still new albums and stuff. And I've been trying to replay some of the albums as well too that I haven't been replaying a ton compared to some of the other ones. But when we do like the official end of the year list, we'll get into it and explain some of the other ones. So there's other ones where it's like, I get it. Maybe it didn't take the steps to actually be like a Grammy nominated album, but the Vince Staples album, it's time for Vince Staples to get in the mix. But like, I guess the Denzel Curry mixtape would be a good example where, this right now is sitting in my top 10 albums of the year. So I guess, maybe it's technically not in the top 5. It could definitely move up though. It's close right now. I think the field was very even this year, chat. I think that's why Future's going to have the best chance to win, because again, the album, a really solid album compared to the rest. And I think as the more and more I listen to this album, I get maybe the run at the end of the album is a little bit long, but I mean, We Don't Trust You, Young Metro, Ice Attack, Type, Claustrophobic, Like That, Slimed In, Magic Duan Juan, Cinderella, Running Out of Time, Fried. I mean, that's a pretty elite run, chat. You've got, I guess all that I just read is pretty elite. Run Out of Time, Fried, Ain't No Love, and then Everyday Hustle, GTA, Seen It All. So I think the best thing that Future has going for him is just the evenness of the field this year. And if nothing really stood out, and not in a bad way that we're saying that nothing stood out, but nothing was able to really elevate above the rest just because the rest of the talent was so strong this year. The moment that Future caused, obviously, I think is going to be the Toxic King wrecking the game and getting rewarded for it with the nomination and potentially the win. I guess Don Toliver as well too. I was really starting to think that one would get nominated the last couple of weeks, chat, because when we looked up that Utopia number and saw that Hearthstone Psycho was the second most streamed album of the year, but you've also, you've got all the categories for a Grammy nomination. You've got big numbers, Travis Scott, Charlie Wilson, Future, and Metro. Tizo Touchdown is, stacked feature list. You had a kind of a fun soundscape, landscape setup he's going for with the different discs and different feels and different moods. And playing with the album experience, giving us a little something different. And I think, again, a real quality album from the year. I thought that was a bigger album that I was really prepared to see that one in the mix as well, too. Lupe Fiasco gets left off. 21 Savage, I think it would have been a little bit of a reach to put that one in the top 5. I mean, and then you could start going through some of the underground, like, JPEG Mafia as well, too. This is another year-end list one. Did Anderson .Paak get nominated in the R&B category? Spoiler alert, chat. We have him in our year-end list. But I think he might have gotten nominated. I think we might be okay there. So maybe he'll win, chat. Okay, just best R&B album was Chris Brown, 11:11. Layla Hathaway, Vanta Black, Mooney Long? Did we say that right? Revenge, Lucky Day, Algorithm, and Usher coming home. Usher and Chris Brown back in the Grammys. Drake and Future on the other side. Just paying love to... The Grammys are getting nostalgic for themselves. They're paying love to a lot of their old stars. But I think people... I mean, the Usher album. I think people love the Usher album, right, chat? I think... Was it best... Is there best progressive R&B album? I don't remember all the the categories, chat. Yeah, here we go. Best progressive R&B album for this year, because I think this is where SZA... Yeah, SZA for SOS was the last winner of this category. So maybe we're getting more replay value out of this category than we are the other ones. Last year it was SZA versus... with SOS versus Since I Have a Lover, Diddy the Love Album, Nova, Terrence Martin, and Janelle Monáe, Age of Pleasure. This year we've got... Oh, yeah, so Childish Gambino was in this category as well, too. That's another one that... Yeah, I guess it's not super high up. It's in the top 20. It's in the top 20. And like we're saying, the list is stacked this year, chat. So I feel like even the top 20... I mean, this back half of the top 20, we're starting to... I mean, the Eminem album's back here. We've got Megan Thee Stallion back here. I mean, this is all going to change, chat. We'll move these around as we continue to listen to these in the next couple of weeks here. Really see how we're feeling. But we've got Avery Sunshine, So Glad to Know You, Dunarad, Bernard, En Route, Childish Gambino, Bando Stone of the New World, Kalani with Crash, and then No Worries, Why Lord with Anderson .Paak and Knowledge. So that was another top 10 album that got nominated. So I guess, but yeah, I guess on the JPEG Mafia album, that's a tough one for the year-end list people. But especially after Scaring the Hoes with Danny Brown as well, too, I feel like that one did well critically in the fact that he followed it up with a solo critical album. Danny Brown as well, too. Like, I guess he dropped an album in 2023 that was very, very well received. Very good album. A couple songs off that album that we definitely grabbed into the playlist, into the rotation a ton. But maybe Scaring the Hoes 2 gets in the mix. That'll be JPEG Mafia's breakthrough to the industry. But they don't really do... I mean, they're not really doing underground type stuff on the Grammys for the most part. But I guess also on Metro Boomin, we'll end on this, chat. This was the last thing I wanted to say about the Grammy nominations for now. Until next time, chat. We'll be back Sunday. Don't worry. During the games, we'll be talking about everything that happened during the NFL Week 10. Will Cooper Rush beat Sirianni? We'll find out live, chat, Sunday. Stay tuned to the Rem and Sam pod. But Metro Boomin now, back-to-back years, getting nominated. Heroes and Villains as the solo album last year. And then the collab album. I guess, propelling Future into this Grammy category. I guess he didn't get him the nomination with the last album, but potentially going to get Future that first Grammy win. And, I guess the Kanye, Jay-Z, Future, Metro type thing. And maybe it's a little bit different. Future had the run. And, I guess so did Kanye. Or Jay-Z dropped Reasonable Doubt without Kanye. I guess maybe he dropped his best album without Kanye. But we were talking about the big three with Tyler, chat. And like I was saying earlier as well, too, I've been holding that third spot for Jid. And right now, if we're looking at the new big three for the 2020s, if we're saying that J. Cole and Kendrick and Drake are kind of the big three of the 2010s, and we have to anoint somebody else for the big three of the 2020s, because we're obviously not writing off them for the 2020s. Like now J. Cole has 2 Grammy noms in the 2020s. So, I mean, is he the most nominated artist of the 2020s, chat? Chat? Is J. Cole leading the decade, chat? Do we need to get a quick scan? I guess Tyler Igor got nominated for the 2020 Grammys. So it's now Tyler the Creator and J. Cole, but I guess Tyler won twice, so he's kind of winning. Nas, 2 King's Disease nominated. And I guess now Metro Boomin, back-to-back years as well. So I guess Drake, Certified Lover Boy. But that was technically withdrawn, so I guess Drake back to 1. But do we have to now consider Metro in that third big three spot? And I know Metro's not a rapper, so it's not going to be the same thing as a Kendrick, Drake, and J. Cole. But I mean, in terms of who's dropping quality albums and who's the young guys and who's making the waves, who's getting the numbers, I mean, Metro is clearly doing it. And Metro is now broken through on an industry standpoint where if his name is attached to it, it's kind of gold. And I think from a producer standpoint, obviously Kanye is the peak of that. But Metro is getting there. I mean, Pete Rock is just now getting a nomination for this. And I know, Illmatic was not dropped before the Grammys. But, Metro now, and especially doing it with the solo album before, where he's done it with the solo album, but now with a star and propelling that star, I think Metro might be in the lead for that third spot right now. If I had to be, if we had to just go a current right now, who's the big three of the 2020s, and it, if the buttons get pushed tomorrow, chat, and time stops, it has to be. Time ends with Travis Scott, Tyler the Creator, and Metro Boomin being the big three so far. And Jid drops the album, he can be right back on track. I think the Forever Story is that strong of an album that he still has a little bit to go, chat. If he drops like another Forever Story, and if he is like the newer Kendrick-y type thing where he can take that amount of time and pull it off and give us that quality, which the other problem is now too, chat. I guess it's not too long. I dropped it like 2 years ago. It's not like he's taking a 4-year break. Yeah, October of 2022. So it's just now been 2 years. So we actually do need to be a little bit more patient, chat. But if he does, the album is good enough. Let's just say he could afford to wait, I guess. Even a couple more. That would be tough if he waited a couple more years, especially now. It feels like time moves faster. Is 3 years, 4 years, a year and a half, 3 years? It does feel like it's sped up a little bit, but the Forever Story is strong. It's one of the best albums of the decade. So that's enough to keep him in the mix. And with the feature run that he's doing, especially, like, he's making the other moves around it to propel himself. But he needs to drop another. Feel like Metro has 2 albums now in this decade that are both recognized as the best albums within the year that they've dropped. And I think from a replay value standpoint, are both albums. Heroes and Villains, maybe, I think for the kids, it'll be the most replayed. I guess Utopia is the most replayed album of that era. But Heroes and Villains as well, too, the start to finishness and the cohesiveness of that album makes that a really special project to listen to. And I think this future Metro Boom album will age as well, too. I think if it wins, it'll age fine. I think it's going to have hits on it and people like going back to it. But I think it'll have a real nostalgic factor that'll be cool as well, too, for the moment that it generated. So once again, I'm not mad at this list. It's a fun time. The Grammys, I think they get too much hate. I'm in on it. I like giving out awards, man. What can I say? I like doing lists. I like competing. And I think the industry does too. Even if they say they don't, I think they all like it. So good luck to everybody in the field. We'll be back with the Grammys in February. But we've got, is it in February, chat? Sometime in the spring. But there's a new Ab Soul album out today. Soul Burger. I think we've got Corday next week. So, I mean, make no mistake, this upcoming window is only going to continue to get more stacked. And we're going to be here covering it the whole time, chat. We talked about the Tyler album. Lil Uzi, I don't think will be in the mix. But who knows what these upcoming albums will bring. And who knows what legends will drop, what we will see unfold. But like I said, chat, we will be back Sunday talking about the games in the middle of the NFL action. Be back throughout the week as well, too, with some NBA. Just we're always here, chat. We're always hanging out. We're always having a good time. And we love it when you guys join in as well, too. So thank you guys for jumping on tonight.